Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Yoga in My School podcast. My name is Donna Freeman. I am the host of the show and the founder of Yoga in My School, and this is a place where you can come to learn about all things mindfulness and movement for youth. And today we're taking a bent into trends, and it's 2021. It's amazing to see the transformation of kids yoga over, for me, the past 20 years, to watch it evolve. And we're going to be looking at what's current and what's up and coming, and things that you may want to add to your arsenal, your toolbox, moving forward in the kids yoga world. But before we do that, I want to thank you for being here and for listening and or watching if you happen to be on YouTube, but for listening on your favorite podcast platform, and for all of your support over the years. It's quite amazing to see where listeners are from in the stats. And I just wanted to thank you for being here and let you know some ways that you can support the show. It's easy to support the show. Listening, yay, we love listeners. You can also sharing an episode if there is something of value and you think of a colleague or someone who would appreciate hearing the topic and the conversation, please share. Also, writing a review. That is so powerful in today's day and age. If you want to spend a few minutes and write a review, that means just absolutely the world. And then there is the lovely donate button. So you can go to the Yoga in My School website, click on podcast, and donate a cup of tea, whatever fits you. But if you found value in these episodes, and there are about 130 episodes now of the show, please support us. We really appreciate it. All right, there's my shameless plug of the month, the year. There we go. Got that out of the way. All right. Today my special guest is someone we've kind of worked mirroring one another. We first met back in 2015 Kids Yoga Conference, and it's been a joy to watch her become an absolute powerhouse in the kids yoga community. And we are excited about where kids yoga is going and the trends that we are seeing. But this is Lara Hocheiser, and we are thrilled. I'm thrilled that we get to spend the next half hour-ish chatting about kids yoga and all things that make our hearts go boom, boom for mindfulness and movement.
Thank you for having me.
It's a delight. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Lara Hocheiser. I'm currently living in New York City. I have been working in early childhood education for 20 years and been working on all levels of education ever since. I've been practicing yoga and mindfulness for the vast majority of that time. I've been studying at a college level and teacher trainings really the whole 20 years. So it's been cool to go down both of those paths concurrently. I have a business called Flow and Grow Kids Yoga. Predominantly right now I'm focusing on mentoring and training the next generation. So I'm really excited to talk about trends because I have a registered children's yoga school by the same name, Flow and Grow Kids Yoga. And I've done 4 95-hour online teacher trainings since the pandemic. So I'm really seeing all of my trainees go out and hit the ground running. And I'm very excited about what they're doing. I also create inclusive, diverse, representative content so that children see themselves depicted in the illustrations in front of them. I really care about yoga philosophy. I'm doing a lot of work to repair some of the cutesy stuff that's out there. Of course, we can have fun and be cute, but I really think it's important to be substantive and ethical. So those are things I'm focusing on, and I'm seeing my students go out there and really focus on those things too, which is amazing. And I have had a very active blog for the last 5 years. And from that blog, I now have a book coming out in May called Mindfulness for Beginners in 10 Minutes a Day. And its release date is May 2021. I think the Kids Yoga Conference will probably do an event for it. And we haven't announced it yet because the book is not on sale. But if you're listening to this in March or April, the pre-sale starts in April. So please do reach out to me. And so the ability to write that book came from having written and kept a blog and writing all the content and curriculum for years. It just came out. And It's funny getting this feeling of imposter syndrome. Like, how can I write a book on mindfulness when I am like so unmindful? But every single time I lead a course, I remember to analyze my personal practice. I remember to look at my daily life. And, things are a little unbalanced sometimes, but they're trending in a direction I'm proud of. And I also see that in the students I work with, that they're trending towards um, prioritizing an authentic personal daily practice, whatever that looks like for each individual. So that's what I'm up to right now.
That's exciting. I love how you say, like who am I to be doing this? And I felt the same when I first got a copy of my book, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I'm a published author. Like, what is that? And the first time that you take the seat of the instructor, and do all of that type of thing, and it's like, am I going to be judged because I'm still such a hot mess, and things in right? And things in my life are not perfect. And like I often will tell stories of I'm teaching you how to do it this way because here's the
Yeah.
backstory of when I did it wrong. How I
Oh,
totally
so
messed up.
funny. One of my students from my fall cohort emailed me, and she's was a retired 30-year business owner. And she said, listen, the thing I love about your class is you're always telling on yourself. You let us know how you messed up, what it looked like, and how to correct it. You're constantly refining. And I think one of the trends you'll see is people paying attention to their missteps and growing, and doing so with grace, and really changing how they speak, stand, behave with children, the whole way we are, whether it's in schools. And and I know you want to talk about social justice and trauma informed, but I know we had a big overcorrection where we were getting super overwhelmingly like trauma informed. And now I'm seeing clinical pediatric people come into the field who can actually do trauma informed yoga without like your magical 2-day course, right? They have true trauma informed training and can actually go out and ethically use that title. I don't mention trauma informed or social justice anywhere on my website or even special needs, but of course all of those people are being cared for under my watch, but I don't have specific expertise in that. The people with that expertise are coming in and professionalizing the industry. And one of the coolest things is seeing the industry growing. I have like neonatologists and pediatric dentists and OTs and people who have masters and doctorates, multiple oftentimes in my classes. And I'm their teacher, which to talk about being like, how am I your teacher? But it's because we are calling in really incredible leadership at a high level that are more educated and more willing to go the extra mile than ever before. So we're going to have less messing up, I think, less egregious mistakes in schools and in communities that happened when yoga was young, before we really got a chance to professionalize the industry.
All right, and that's really a huge, as you say, that is a huge trend. It's wonderful to see this merging of different modalities, and that everyone kind of putting in this emphasis on mindfulness and stress reduction, and how are we managing anxiety and all of these things. Psychologists, and as you say, the pediatric medical specialists, OTs, PTs, and seeing that level of professionalism coming into trainings. And I think that raises the bar with what is expected out of the training, that there needs to be that the evidence-based, like it's okay, here is all of the evidence-based, and this has been a huge push in the kids yoga world over the past 10 years.
Right, prove it. Where are the numbers?
Prove it. And I remember the first time that was really brought home to me was in 2011. Sherry Vilches-Blatt, who and who many people know in the kids yoga community, she was approached by a reporter, and she was said, there's this thing called yoga in schools. Like, who should I talk to? And she says, oh, you need to talk to Donna. And so I got a phone call from a lovely lady at the Wall Street Journal. And I went, the what? And my husband said, yes, sure you did. Right. But the whole impetus is, we had our conversation. She goes, okay, that's great. Can you prove any of that?
That's It's such a question, and it's one of the questions I love and hate. Love it because I do think we need to come at it with a level of credibility. People are too creative. People are too like, I can just make my own thing. I think that we do need to understand the like physiological impact of certain practices when it comes to breath and somatics. Great. Simultaneously, I really don't want to see a principal saying, what are we going to see in terms of behavior shift concretely? Because we will see shifting, well, we will see improvement, but before it gets better, it gets worse. Because when people wake up to this, they're suffering. When people wake up to what's inside, first it's worse before it's better. And so I think that the data is great, but if we just look at the data on this very small snapshot, it can be harmful. So to try to understand how the impact lasts over time with a quality program that really knows what they're doing and that has the right content curriculum and ability to implement, right? Because how many times have I shown up with an incredible curriculum and taught games because it just couldn't land at that time, which is actually, to me, fine to go with what the needs are in the moment, and you can integrate those activities and, but it's not to the level of like, yes, first we're doing this, like, you can't build in the same way when you need to kind of roll with it. So it's an interesting time. I think we're in this place where we have some data, we have some early numbers, but we also want there to be time and space to let the programming speak for itself in communities.
Mm-hmm. And understand, I've had people who've done training with me and then they take it back to their school, they're teachers, they're in the schools, and they'll implement some programming in their location, and 6 months later the administration is like, well, I'm not seeing the impact. I'm not seeing all these promises that you told me were going to happen, and it's like, it's only been 6 months.
Other issue is if the professionals that do the training, say we do professional development at a school on a school level, they bring you in August for the in-service, you spend 4 hours maybe, then you come back and you spend an hour with the students, and we're doing these piecemeal things, we're passing on little bits of information, but the issue is that you cannot train an entire staff in 4 hours when they're also integrating all the new initiatives the school year and expect there to be a magic wand effect. And that is the issue, is that, like, if you sign your kids up for karate, it's going to take weeks before the respect is there, before the impact hits. But there's a misunderstanding, a myth that yoga is this thing that is a magically delivered process, and you can download the ability to teach this in a 2-hour PD. And that's just simply incorrect. And so implementation needs high level ongoing training, high level ongoing, either boots on the ground from people like yourself and me and the people we train, or the actual school staff needs ongoing mentorship and support from people like us. And when they get the 2 hours a couple times of its school year, the school's able to say, look, we invest in mindfulness. But the issue with that is it's truly the appearance of, and that is one of the trends, is like the appearance of yoga, the appearance of mindfulness, that I'm hoping starts to fade because substantive cumulative effects of actually implementing a curriculum and being there with a community and helping them create something long lasting and enduring.
Yeah, and that's, like, as you say, that's a big, it's almost this tug of war of, you love to see people dipping their toes in the water. It's like, yes, thank you for coming, thank you for investing and seeing that there is a need for this. Now, how can we now take this to that next level of truly impactful, substantive content? That's
one of the cool things I've noticed is that, so that issue was happening for years for me. I would get hired to do a PD, but now I'm seeing districts, they'll do the PD, everyone gets it, they all buy the content, they license the content for, they have the integrating mindfulness curriculum from me, all the classrooms have it. I've trained their teachers, then I'm actually doing, say on Fridays, I'm working with the teachers to have their personal mindfulness and chair yoga. And then they send people in to do my weekend or foundations. they'll send 3 or 4, and then they'll actually continue and have 2 to the entire 95. And so now within, embedded in the community, are people able to create enormous programs with high levels of success that have proven, and it went from being this kind of yoga games thing to a community that understands yoga and mindfulness and has a direct experience of the impact. And now the students, so it's very interesting because in some of these same districts, they're looking for grants to send their seniors through my training program, because now another trend, young people can actually look to this as a professional track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I offer I offer an RCYT, so your kids yoga, also the 200 and 300 hour training. And we've had a number of youth, high school seniors and that type of thing, come and take the 200-hour training, because here in Alberta, Canada, yoga is a 4-credit course in high school. And so you can,
cool.
Yeah, super cool, right? So there is, a grade 10, 11, and 12. So what is that in US terms? Freshman, sophomore, senior? Nope.
Yeah, we also have 10, 11, 12. Yeah,
sophomore,
that lines up.
So sophomore, junior, senior. There we go. So each of those years, they can take a yoga course and get credit for it toward their graduation. And some of these kids love it so much that they want more. And so then we have them coming and getting 200-hour training so that they are registered yoga instructors at the age, like our youngest was 15.
Wow.
Right. And then she's back in her school offering yoga to her friends and being an absolute leader in her community. And it's super cool to see.
So cool.
Yeah. And, even like next weekend, I have one of these young people. She's a little bit older now. She's at university, but she's running workshops with with French speaking kids. And so it's really amazing, especially with the internet, how we can reach, and our extent of, is so expanded now that
it's incredible how much customizable. And I don't want to talk about the watered down like boutique thing. I mean, understanding an exact community, whether it's one individual, a small group, really understanding the need, right? Because you said like French language. I've been doing Spanish immersion programming for years, but like whatever the individual who takes the training has some special merging of skills, and they can reach a very special subset of the community. And now we have the right representation reaching those right communities, because I don't know if you've ever been placed in a community that wasn't the perfect fit for you, because that's happened to me once in my career, and it was jarring because I actually felt like my nervous system does not relax in this particular environment because it's not the right thing for me. It is not my natural teaching strength, and it takes more out of me than it, because when we're teaching in a place from comfort and at home, and we're able to really connect, we can make amazing things happen. But when we're not, it's like, that's where the accidental harm does. So when we have these really great people coming in and doing something super specific, and they're able to go off and reach that really specific subset of individuals who now have a like home yoga practice, they are at home in their body, and their instructor has a direct connection to them that really makes sense.
Yeah, that's happened with me with here locally. Every year they've held a Indigenous youth conference, and because it's held in a location, and I've done lots of other conferences with this organization, but they've right, and so they said, hey, we're having this, and we'd love some yoga and mindfulness and some trauma-informed training for this group. And I'm like, I can speak to that, but I'm not Indigenous, right? And so, right. And so then I was able to train a number of people who are in the Métis community and have, Native heritage and that type of thing. And I've told them for many years, you need to offer something.
They are the messenger. They are the messenger. Yes. Okay,
and so then it's more powerful because I'm not one of your elders, and it doesn't land the same coming from me. And, just that that awareness of not all audiences will be your audience, but how do we then empower the right, as you say, the right people to be in the right place to bring them.
Yes. This is so funny because I have a colleague in Japan and I've been working with the Japanese Department of Ed doing mindfulness training. We don't have a translator. We have a cultural translator. She went through and scoured my curriculum, and we had like 14 brainstorming sessions about how to make it culturally relevant and how to even present the workshops, because I did have a translator, but the most important thing was understanding how to adapt the activity so they would land. We couldn't, like, you know how in the US, for example, people are very opinionated, they're welcome, they'll share their thoughts. In Japan, the students are very unlikely during class to do that. So everything had to be an internal inquiry process. You know, in the US, a lot of times we'll have kind of like an external out loud processing of the activities. And now maybe the teacher does that processing with the students aloud, but they are not expected to produce verbal responses during the class. And it just makes it more authentic. But I could never have shown up. I mean, I did some research, of course, but I could have never have shown up and just done it the way it needed to be changed. And so when we presented the workshop, it was amazing because you could just see the smiles on people's faces. It felt like home to them. It wasn't my way for these other people. And I think like some of the older yoga, and this is, want to just quickly step on my soapbox. We don't own this stuff. And when people make you sign a contract that says, I will not create my own content after studying with you, it is a predatory person. You've got to let people go out and create their own thing because their voice is necessary. So if you silence that voice, that is a social justice problem. I never make anybody sign something in my course saying I will not create. I want you to make something of yourself. And one of my graduates from my class that just finished a month ago is a major presenter at this national yoga conference beside you and me, because she had something very important to offer and I didn't hold her back. I introduced her and she got one of the only 3 headliner spots because that is what's ethical. I knew she had a skill everyone needed in grant writing. People need to get money to keep their programs going. It is the most important thing to keep our industry afloat. I knew I had an ethical requirement to empower her, even if it meant she could outshine me, because it doesn't matter. I don't matter. I mean, I matter to my community, but her community matters. The people she is going to empower to be able to get their own money. We're not going to be fighting each other. This feeling of like, there's not enough for everyone, that goes away when we actually hold each other up.
Yeah.
That's a trend. Holding each other up is a trend.
Yeah, so you've just covered a couple of trends. One is the cultural responsiveness, is that we need to be adapting whatever we're offering to the community that we are presenting to, right? That is just an absolute trend, and that there's no cookie cutter way of applying yoga skills. And then another one is that you've talked about is empowering people within our community. And like I always think of it, is it competition or is it community? Like which one, or where are you going? Because it's one or the other. And for me, it always goes back to community. It's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, 12 years ago.
That's literally what my presentation at the conference is this year, is on community and connection. That is the most important thing right now in the trends.
Yeah, great.
Being there.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to shift a little bit because all of this kind of comes down to like accessibility and inclusivity.
That's okay. Those are 2 of the biggest words I wrote on my Post-it.
Great. Okay. So let's just kind of dive into, like, there's a lot of bits and pieces of inclusivity and adaptability. Inclusivity and accessibility, right? Like those are huge things. So jump in there. Like
this is the thing. This is another soapbox issue for me, because as I said, like I am not a special needs trained educator. I have worked with hundreds of students with different needs, and I have included them. But I'll tell you, if somebody says, I have such and such and such a child with a specific need that goes beyond your scope, your imperative is to refer out. You do not pretend you have the skill set to include that child if you don't. So either you are able to make your class truly inclusive by understanding their IEP or their whatever their needs are educationally. If they normally have a one-on-one, can you have that in your class? Whatever they need to succeed during the school day or in other programming has to happen in your class. If you cannot make that happen, like we used to work with an organization that did after school programs for children with the autism spectrum disorder. And I would only hire really specific teachers for that role who had been working with that population and had specific training in that, a master's level or above. And the other issue is then you have to charge enough to pay the people who have multiple masters or a doctorate often, or sometimes they're an MD or a PhD or whatever. So we cannot be afraid to either procure grant money, right? Because if it's a community that needs it, that has special needs and they need this programming, you've got to learn how to get the funding for that so that you can actually deliver at a high level, because you don't want to pay somebody $40 who's done 30 years of education. It's just an insulting thing to offer. And so that is a major issue in our industry, is when we professionalize, we also have to make people understand this product is worth more than you think it should cost. And therefore, we have to either find public funding or increase the rate and figure it out, because we do want to make it accessible, but we also have to incentivize people like yourself and me and all those specific people who are going to reach those target populations that we love and care about. We cannot include them if we do not pay the right amount. It is not attractive to go to work for nothing with all of that you've put into it. So I think these issues matter. Inclusion has everything to do with how much we charge. And I'm sorry, but it's true. Everybody listening, you may need to raise your prices because the entire industry is paying for your charity. And I think charity is wonderful when you do it as charity, but when you do it as work, that's where it becomes an issue. So it is an ethical issue to undercharge, because then people who could reach populations cannot. And then we get underskilled people, right? Doing these very high need jobs in a sensitive population, that damage can be done.
Yeah.
So rather than provide the service, we kneecap yoga.
Yeah, that's one of my things that bothers me, is people who provide a service to, especially to specialty populations, and they don't have the training. They have a love. It's like, I see there's a love, and somebody's asked me to come in and I think I can do it. I really don't have the training, but I can figure it out. And I just go, oh my goodness, please, right? It's like, and I know it still happens, where there is a wonderful mom who loves yoga and has a great yoga practice, and she's going into her child's school and offering kids yoga with no training, like you say.
And it does not compute, and it's a total mayhem situation.
Yeah. Right. And they do a disservice to the yoga. They do it, and then the school says, oh, we had somebody come in and it didn't work, and so we're not going to do that again. And then you're just
This
like,
is why.
Oh, don't do that, people. I know training costs. I'm well aware. I've done lots of training. I know there is an investment there, but trust the value of that investment. Trust the value of those teachers who will provide to you the level of qualifications that you need in order to meet, this request. Hey, can you come in and do yoga with so-and-so?
Right. And then you actually have adequate training.
Yeah. Yeah. So people, if you're listening, get your training. Don't offer things that aren't outside of your wheelhouse. Stay in your groove. And if, as you said, if you're requested to do something outside of your wheelhouse, find someone, like
get the help you need. Teach with that person. Here's the thing. You can make a little bit less money and share a program with someone who could teach you so much. Just the value you get by being beside an amazing person, whether you're observing or co-teaching, is so much more than you could ever worry about losing a little bit of income on a short term, because of how you will grow and who you can you could reach someone in the future by spending time with that person. So if you did get something beyond your scope, join the person you find to do that group, maybe as a volunteer or an assistant, then the next time it comes up, you might be qualified.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but now you've also kind of brought up this conundrum of value for expertise and people who are socioeconomically compromised. And how do we, so is then yoga only available to those who can afford it, which has been a trend, and
Right.
and like rich white
Rich
girls,
people. Yeah.
right? Versus the so many communities
Everybody that needs it.
that need it that can't afford, right? And so you have this tug of war. How do we address that?
It feels like that, but that's why. So if you're listening and this is before April 2021, the conference, the National Kids Yoga Conference this year, Nat Aiello is a speaker. She's one of my students and is a professional grant writer as a 4-H educator and has just finished her 200 and her 95 with me and is now launching programming on grant money for at-need populations. You can get free money sitting in a bank somewhere. When you learn this grant writing skill, come to Nat's workshop at the conference because you can serve populations with money sitting, waiting to be spent on them. Literally, there's money for these populations sitting in a bank account, waiting for your creative writing. All grant writing is creative writing. Get that money, get paid, get the stuff that community needs. Don't do it for free. Pay yourself a fair wage, get them the programming they need for the amount of visits that they actually require because there's money. We're just not educated as an industry. And this is a trend. I know Nat is going to change the world. That's why I got her an introduction to the conference because I said, we need this skill to fix this issue. The social justice issue begins to dissolve when we take the resources available and apply them to the problem.
Love it. Love it.
It's out
okay.
there. It's out there.
So I do want to tell people about the Kids Yoga Conference. So if you are listening and you are unaware that there is a Kids Yoga Conference, there is a Kids Yoga Conference. And this year is amazing because I live a good distance away from Washington, D.C., like a good distance. And I've only been able to attend in person a few times and present there. But now this year, miraculously, everything is online and it's available around the world anytime you'd like to attend, people. So the conference is running from April 16th to May 1st. It is completely online. I'm presenting about accounting. Because yoga people are not generally business people. Those are two different mindsets. And so I work in an accounting firm and I deal with books. And a lot of yoga people's books are a disaster. Like people have never written an invoice. They don't even know what to do. They don't know what to do with their receipts. So yeah, I'm going to give you lots of tips on how to organize your books and make that
What a great topic.
A happier part of your world. What are you presenting on, Lara?
I will be presenting on fostering connection and community. And it's just exactly what we've been talking about. And I really want to focus more on the teachers that we train rather than the students. But I think that the trick is going to be making it about the students, but truly it's about us and how we look at ourselves and our relationships. And everything I teach people about children's yoga is about their lives, and they end up growing from that. So it'll be focused on connecting with the children, but no, and everyone listening, it's really about understanding broader connections and how they make the world better, empowering people. And this is one of the most important things. People worry about like customer retention. How do you think you retain customers? Love them, understand them, meet their needs, be a customer service oriented person, because it's not about marketing. It's about the connection you make and the way people feel when you work with them. They feel cared for, they feel seen. And I think accounting's part of that too, because like they want to know how to pay you. They want to know, all these things, but it's at the end of the day, connection can be taught, but I think like a lot of us are showing up to yoga because we need connection. So whatever your needs are, that can be a great place to start. What would you need, right? And start there and find out what your people need. So I'm pretty excited to be alongside you at the conference and some other really amazing presenters this year. The field has been growing and it's become more inclusive, which is wonderful. And I'm excited to see what is going to come from it.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you haven't already registered, please do so. And if the finances are a burden, there are scholarships to that. So, come, attend, dive into, enjoy, make some connections with amazing, amazing people who over the past 12 years have truly enriched my life as I've reached out and got to know so many of them. I considered many of them my close friends. And as I was looking through the list of presenters, I was like, oh, it's so good to see her. And oh, it's so good to see her. And I'm like, hey, that's an interesting topic. I'm going to have to reach out to her for an upcoming podcast episode.
So in the conference I attended in 2015 where we met, I also met Susan Verde, who's now one of my real life friends. We hang out in Long Island
She's
in the
lovely.
summer. And oh my gosh, it's so true. Like, I feel like I've met a lot of my lifelong friends, but if you are an up and comer and you go to the conference, here's a big thing to not do. Do not become anyone else. Do not think you have to do what anyone else is doing. I got totally blindsided by other people's work at the conference in 2015, and it took me off my trajectory for like a whole year. And I started creating content for other people's dreams. Remember yourself and what your intentions are when you attend, so you don't just adopt what other people are doing, but you adapt their teachings to your goals. Do not become anybody else. Be you, because that's the most important thing we need, is like real people doing their real best with their populations in mind.
Yeah, that authenticity. And that's what yoga is all about, right? Is that finding that connection to self, knowing who you are, and trusting your voice, leaning into that. Like, that to me is like, okay, just live yoga. Awesome.
This has been so fun.
It has been a delight chatting with you. We should probably do this more often.
I know. And I've been saying this for so long, but like, we need to make an organization where we are talking in an organized way. So put it in your brain.
All right. It's there.
Out there. Put it in your brains. We need something, some governance. I don't know. This is another topic, but how do we keep it going? How do we keep it growing, in a good way?
Yeah. Finding that support day to day, because it can feel very lonely, right?
Totally.
It can feel lonely.
And that, that's like my last point is just my teacher training that I created, my RCYT, is to eliminate the isolation. The thing that happened with the pandemic that was surprising is doing a training online, you can have incremental training. So we're meeting twice a week, just like night school, just like you get your master's. You're getting 6 hours a week, not 50 hours in a week for 2 weeks straight. And then you have to, you get a slow integration of knowledge. You get support over 3 months. You get, people, I watch every minute of everybody's footage and they get true feedback rather than presenting with a group, which is great, but you don't get as much individualized feedback. I think the mentorship aspect has grown in the RCYT online. And it is a wonderful thing because we're actually able to cultivate leadership that way. We're not just saying, here's your training, go on your island. We are making that web of connection so much stronger, and the relationship between student and teacher. My people send me like love letters, cards, like truly every day I wake up to emails, texts, everything. And it's like, that is not a coincidence. It's the impact you make when you truly make a bond and you make a connection.
Fabulous. It has been a delight chatting with you. All right, people, those who have been listening, where can they find more of you?
So I am Lara Hocheiser. My business is Flow and Grow Kids Yoga. It's flowandgrowkidsyoga.com. I have an awesome blog. I have an e-commerce store with substantive, inclusive representative curriculum that's been adopted by school districts across the US and across the globe, including Japan and Argentina. And I have all the social media, so you can find me on Facebook, and our main three are Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you email me through my website, I will personally respond to you. So if anybody wants to reach me, and the next teacher training cohort that I'm leading will be this summer in the mornings in the Eastern time zone, because I've been doing them all in the evening, and it'll be mid-June through mid-August. So if anybody's looking to join a community, I will be putting that for sale. By the time you're hearing this, it will be up for sale again. And please do reach out to me. I'm very excited to talk to all of you.
Fabulous. All right. Thank you for being here, Lara. It's been a delight. Thank you to everyone who's been listening and or watching. And again, share, like, comment, rate, review, and donate.
Donate.
I want to keep
Your
doing
time
this.
is valuable to me.
All right. Have a wonderful day, you guys. Thanks for listening. Namaste.
Namaste.